when you're conformed to think the world, all these things you're supposed to do, like what you mentioned, like before I used to force myself to be busy and I was doing a bunch of nothing.
Yep,
It's gonna
nothing.
hit, it's gonna hit somebody right there. Like, no,
I mean,
don't.
I was spending hours with people I didn't even like. I'm like, why are you even, you know what I mean? Like, just that whole thing of just chasing what, you know? Like,
Oh,
I was thinking one night, I was in bed, right? And I had got done working. And then I thought, man, if it all ended right now, I done spent all this time worrying. I done spent all this time being disingenuous and inauthentic. I done spent all this time running around in circles doing what I don't love to do just to make a living, right? But playing like I love to do it. That's whack. It's boring. It's played out. So, yeah, that's, I live my life the way I want to live it.
What's happening, everybody? Jay Moore, the Healthy Accountant, here with my cohort, Shauna Bell, the Freedom CPA. What's going on, Shauna?
what's up, Jay? It's another day for a podcast. I'm excited.
Yes, it is. And this is the Beyond Freedom podcast. We have an amazing guest today. And there was a conversation that happened off camera that we had to just start the podcast and bring this conversation because I think that it's going to help a lot of people, especially on this road to Beyond Freedom. And so I'm going to let Shauna introduce our guest because she actually met him first and she has probably a cool story to share about him. Go ahead, Shauna, introduce our guest.
Yes, so I'm excited to bring Brother Shawn to our platform, and I'm gonna tell you how we met. So on LinkedIn, I had a strategy going to reach out to business owners, and it caught Shawn, and he replied back, but he shared that he doesn't typically like being like directly asked about things on LinkedIn like this. And so we start this conversation back and forth, and he's being his authentic self, which we are going to talk about. And just kind of the rapport of how I responded, how he responded. We decided to jump on a call. And when we jumped on that call, it was like, wow, this dude is rich in personality, in wisdom, and professionalism, and what he brings through his consulting business. So we've continued conversations, and we are so excited to bring him and have this conversation today. And I have no doubt that everyone is going to enjoy this conversation. So, Shawn, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, both of you. It's good to see you again. No, it's been a while. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned our conversation on LinkedIn when we first met because that's always a turn off for me. I think like going in for the hard sell just immediately, it's like, where's the connection? Where's the
Right, you
intention?
told me that.
Yeah, like what's this? So I was happy that we could get on a call. And then I got to meet Jay, who is a very dynamic individual himself, and Mr. Cool, as I refer to him to my team. But yeah, I'm grateful that our paths have crossed, and now we're here. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So we,
So
oh,
no, please.
I was gonna say we typically start out because we know Shawn, we know a lot about you, and we want our listeners to get to know a little bit about you, and then we'll just jump into more from there. So tell everybody a bit about your background, who you are, and who you are, what you do, and then we're just gonna keep rolling with the conversation.
Yeah. So a little bit about my background. I don't even know how far back to go, but I was born and raised in a small town, Northwest Ohio, called Lima, Ohio. Um, Population of like 38 some odd thousand people. So typically, people leave because jobs are scarce unless you work at the factory or something like that. So that ended up being a part of my story. At 9, we moved to Columbus, Ohio, and changed my life, opened my whole world up. Um, I am the oldest son. I have one brother and 3 sisters, and I'm a father of 2. Autumn, who is 7, she'll be 8 in August, and Nia, who is 2, and she'll be 3 actually next month, going on 30. Um, I it's always interesting when people ask me who I am or what I do, because I feel like that's a very long answer. Um,
Yeah.
at the heart of who I am, who I've always been, is a creative. And I've never quite known how to channel that, right? I've always had this imagination. I've always been able to do creative things like writing and speaking and things like that. Um, but I never quite knew how to take those gifts and allow them to make room for me. And so I struggled in school. And it's funny because the conversation that we were having earlier, Shauna,
Mhm.
um, about your daughter, I had some struggles in school that unfortunately, you know, and this is of course no diss to my mother. She definitely did her thing, but she did not look into some of those struggles like I would for my own children, right? It was a different time back then, we all know.
Right.
Um, so I commend you for that. And I commend the way that uh, you've turned it into a superpower and not a deficit, right? Or some sort of dysfunction. I really appreciate it, because I think it's really, we add all these different names and conditions to things, but really, I believe they're just brilliant minds that don't quite know how to channel that level of brilliance and creativity, right? It's coming from a source, as we know, that's so much greater than them. But so I say all that to say, struggled in school, struggled in college, did 2 years, and decided I was done. I would just go into the workforce. It wasn't for me. I realize now that this was the first step in stepping into my authentic journey, right, in life. And so I did that. And at 18, I started having conversations with a family friend about his cleaning business, and it was failing. It had started failing about 2 years prior to that. And so I just started giving him like marketing tips and sales tips, and oh, you should try this with your client and do this. And it started to work for him. So one day he comes to me and he says, "You should be a consultant." And I was like, "Well, I don't really know what that is. And, will I have to like own a business, or how does that work?" And he goes, "Well, yeah, you could own your own business." And I was like, "I don't want to do that." So for about a year, um, I went on to work for a financial company, I'll say a bank, and didn't like it. One day I was sitting at my desk, and this this sermon came on by TD Jakes called The Puppet Master. And he was talking about how God had already worked out the end in the beginning. All you had to do was have the faith to take the first step. Now, mind you, for a year, all I could think about was having a business, starting a business, right? So I said, okay, if you, I said, God, if you give me a sign and make it clear, because you know how I am, I question everything. So make it clear, I'll leave and I'll go. Um, and so let me backtrack. That's when I saw the sermon. That's what made me leave. I turned in my 2 weeks notice. I started my business, and I started as a business planning and business development consultant. And I did that for a few years, started Bagley Consulting Group, built that into a 6-figure firm over time. We didn't just make 6 figures out the door. Um, that was from 22 to 25. And by the time I was 26, I lost it all. So, which led me on a totally different journey at that point. Um, so if you would ask me that question a few years ago, who am I and what do I do? I would have said I'm a consultant. And this is what I do for my clients. Um, but who I am is, as I said, a creative. And what I do is, or what I hope to do is inspire. That's really the goal, you know? And I didn't always realize that's what I was doing when I was talking to people. I just kind of thought I was just talking because I like to talk. But apparently people can get something from it. So I'm learning to lean into that a little bit more. I hope that answers your question. I told you it was a long answer, you
No,
know.
it was good. It was good. So we were talking about it's trained. We are trained in this country or in this culture, American culture,
Mhm.
to conform or what's normal or there's just these standards and it starts from a child and that's how we started talking about my daughter and and I mentioned that I wasn't always I am now, I'm better now, but I wasn't always as appreciative as I called it her colorfulness. Like
Yeah.
she's just she's unique, she's different. And instead, I finally learned instead of saying, well, this is what's normal or this is what you should be doing.
Mhm.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I just pulled her out of school at some point, but that's another story because I was just tired of like just conforming and trying to make her fit and it really didn't fit. So anyway, it starts as a child. Thankfully, I've been on this journey with Journey and now see we have to start as children. But I want to ask you, someone listening to this is an adult
Mhm.
and they feel that conformity that they've been forced because we were all, like that's this culture. Like,
Yeah.
what's norm? You're supposed to go to school, you're supposed to get good grades, you're supposed to go to college, you're supposed to do all these things. So my question is, tell someone, tell us what has helped you sort of push past this place or this thought of but I'm supposed to be this versus I'm just gonna let it out. Like this is who I am, like it or leave it. Um, there's nothing else that I have for you but me,
Yeah.
authentic.
Yeah. Um, well, first I had to understand that faking it is not a requirement for making it.
Faking it is not a requirement for
Yeah.
making.
Yeah. Yeah. And we believe it is. That's what we get tricked into. I think for me, I got tired of faking it. It's exhausting wearing a mask. It is exhausting
Mhm.
to try and show up however you think people see you. That's exhausting. When I
Mhm.
could just show up as me, and however you see me is really your business because your perspective is based on your collective, experiences, your life, right? Your journey. And it's not personal to me. So I've been in meetings where people are, like I told you, they're thrown off by the road. I can accept that because that's not a reflection of, I'm not here to make you comfortable, right? I'm
Okay,
here.
wait, Sean. Some people are listening to this. Now you got it in a short form.
You're right.
Explain people the robe so that they understand the context, because you just said the robe.
The
Gotta
road,
explain the robe and then get back to
yeah. Okay, so the
who I am.
road has become a symbol of my authentic expression. It is when you think consultant or you think brand strategist or whatever, you think of a person in a suit maybe or a button up and that's not what you get with me, right? I can guarantee you an experience, but that you don't get that. I'm not cookie cutter. And so the robe is my expression of that. This is how I dress every day, you know. I might be wearing like my joggers and stuff under the robe, but I always have a robe on. I don't know what it is about the robe, but that explains the robe.
Okay.
So when you see me, this is the trademark now. Uh,
Hmm.
but I would say one of the other things I had to do was I had to do the work on myself. I had to do a lot of healing in terms of my own inner child and going back to some childhood experiences where uh, all of my colors were not appreciated. And so you have to, it all starts with you,
Right.
It's like, it doesn't matter if Jay loves me if I don't like myself,
That's good.
it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, guess what? Now I'm going to need Jay to validate me and feel good, right? That's a waste of your time. Do
Mhm.
what you love to do what drives you, do what moves you. You are here to create an impact. Like it's so much more than like just building a business, making money. Like, what is your impact? You know, what is your legacy? Like, you guys are changing lives. Every single day, you're touching someone's life. Through this medium, you're going to touch countless lives, right? That's legacy. And so I think that people have to really get serious about what they want to do versus what they think society thinks they should do. That makes sense? Like, everybody's trying to just, I don't know. It's so, okay, quick sidebar, because I was thinking about it and it kind of fits. But I was reading a post this morning on LinkedIn, and people hate AI. Like, hate it, right? They're going on and on about how people are using AI in their post and to post pictures and create this, create that. And I'm like, guys, we have been leveraging technology to be more efficient for centuries. Like, this is nothing new. So then I started thinking about it, right? What do people really hate about AI? I think AI is the thing that can help wake people up in terms of our own ability to create and to be creative. I think the reason inherently and subconsciously that people hate AI is because it represents an inauthentic form of creative expression. So it triggers them. It triggers them because everything that we look at that we think is creative is so manufactured. Like, it's so, like, my LinkedIn feed, with the exception of a few people, is, I could do without it.
Yeah.
I could do without it because no one's talking about anything. So me being the person I am, I'm like, okay, now you're doing a lot of this in your head, talking about these people on LinkedIn and what they're doing, what they ain't doing. What are you doing? Are you creating content? Are you changing the narrative? Right? Are you changing the frequency by being what you're looking for in the world? The answer was no.
Right.
The answer was no. And so that's what I started doing. So that's what I'm doing now. And this is a part of that. You know, it's getting that message out there. So if you are an adult, especially if you are an adult that was not validated as a child, it's okay. It's okay. And you made it in spite of. And you can tell that inner child that you made it to the other side. It's okay. You're safe. Right. And it's okay to express yourself now. Because here's the thing. And then we can go to the next question. I know I'm rambling, but authenticity. I believe that authenticity is a currency that should be spent frivolously. Right. And authenticity is just so important and it's so overlooked. And guess what? You're going to rub people the wrong way sometimes. Being your authentic self, that means you're doing it right. When you meet some resistance, you're doing it the right way. If everyone likes you, I don't know. Might be something wrong with you. But that's my take on that. I hope it answers the question or people are able to get something out of it. But
Wow, I gotta jump here. I have to jump into this. Shawn mentioned something. I'm going back because Shawn mentioned something about how he, lost it all, went to zero, whatever, between 22 and 25. Is that what you said? 22 and
by
25?
26, I had lost it
Yeah,
all.
by
Yeah.
26. And so that's where I said, well, isn't Shawn only like, he's not even that old. Shawn is not 50. So it's not like Shawn's gonna be like, yeah, man, this was like 20 years ago. That's like so Shawn is young, right? So
Mm-hmm.
for those that are listening, I want you to know Shawn is young. And so and so Shawn has had the luxury of failing fast young, right? He failed young, so he didn't have to waste 40, he didn't have to waste 50,
Exactly.
and so right now what I'm listening to is someone who's going deep into this idea. We're using the word authenticity today,
Mm-hmm.
which is really just becoming you. right?
Right. It's being.
Being you
Yeah.
and taking you into the marketplace.
Mhm.
So Shawn is a creative. He's a
Mhm.
creative, which I would say that Shawn is a creative. I'm a creative.
Yes.
Now, I have a question about this creativity,
Mhm.
especially with how you are now looking to inspire people.
Yeah.
Like, how are you using this not even new, your authentic self to inspire people into creativity?
So, um, I'm writing, number one. I saw one of the questions on the list that you sent me was my favorite business book. So I was thinking about like, what is my favorite business book? And then I came to the conclusion that I'm writing it. And that's the book that I'm working on now, Letters to a Dreamer. Um, I'm walking the walk and then I'm talking about it because I think that inspiration um is easier when people can see, right, an end result of some sort. So that's why I started saying, you know what, I'm going to create the content that I want to see. You know, I love telling stories. I love sharing experiences so that other people can get something from it. Hopefully they do. And so doing more of that. So like we have a blog segment or series that we're working on called Lived Wisdom. And it's basically a collection of stories that are all experiences that I've had. And then the wisdom that comes from them. You know, it took me so long to appreciate the power of a mistake. The power behind a mistake is the lesson that you learn. And then it is applying that lesson and living into that wisdom. I have a lot of lessons and I know that they weren't all for me. And so that's how I plan to inspire others to create and to share. And that's what really makes Blue Light different is that we're not just a branding agency. We're not just a creative agency or a marketing agency. We're really about connecting the dots between who you are and your brand. Because people think those two things can't coexist. Like they can't come to the marketplace as who they really are. So they try to mimic who they see and think is successful. And then it doesn't work. Then they're frustrated. And it was never meant for you to mimic. It was always meant for you to come in and be a disruptor, you know? So that's what I plan on doing. And that's what we are doing. So I'm excited.
That's good. I
That's
struggled
good.
with
Yeah.
that coming into a field, whether it's before I left corporate or into my business, where accounting and tax, when you think of an accounting or tax professional or CPA, what do you think of?
Stuffy.
Ah,
Yeah. Real. Yeah.
Boring, like, I don't talk to
it's
that person.
boring.
Cold to engage with and just kind of aloof. And yeah.
Right? So then, I recognize that people started showing up and coming to talk to me because one, I wasn't that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then some people would say, "You look like my niece," or "You sound like my niece," and they would sign up. I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. I didn't do nothing. I'm just me."
Exactly.
So people,
That's the beauty of it.
yeah.
You
So
know?
people struggle with, oh, there's too much competition. Oh, someone's already doing this. Oh, I'm not as good as that person because of what they look like. No, just show up as you and your people will come. You gotta be findable.
Right. Right. Yeah, you have to be mindful because how do I say this? People people if you're not mindful, you'll surround yourself accidentally with people who are both intimidated by your authenticity and your light and inspired by it. And that's a very interesting combination because if you're not centered within yourself, then these same people can have such an influence on you in terms of determining who you are, right? And how you show up. And I spent many years in those types of situations. where I was always looking for someone to validate me as, I don't even know what, a branding guru, a great consultant, I don't know, and now that I don't care about any of that, it's very interesting to see the opportunities that come up and people are like, "Hey, can we talk? Hey, can we?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, we can talk." But I'm not so desperate anymore, you know? And that's a good place to be in. Yeah, that's a good space. Um, Let me ask you guys something. In creating this content, what is your intention?
I'll start.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll say something. So that's a really good question. What is the intention of this creation?
Mhm.
So a lot of times, especially as creatives, people who are doing things that haven't been done, or seeing an idea that's totally outside of what's normal. When I looked at one, when me and Shauna came together, that was huge for me. And it was huge in the sense of it was two people who converged on a path that seemed to be like we're very different,
Mhm.
but it seemed like the same path, like we're going down the same path. And so I was like, okay. And so then as we're getting introduced to what we are, who we are, and what we're doing. Look, Shauna already had this beyond thing in the name of her business. She had beyond in her business, but I had freedom, and freedom in like becoming more in mine.
Yeah.
And so it was almost like when it converged, we knew we were doing this financial thing, and at first the name kind of got twisted up, right? Because it felt like it should be beyond financial freedom. And one day it just went, no, 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 it's beyond freedom, financial. So then it's like, well, what is that?
Yeah.
It sparked the question, what is beyond freedom?
Mm.
It's like, oh my goodness, that sound way deeper. It's taking us someplace we don't really know what's beyond there.
Right.
We
Right.
just know that when we get beyond, there's no limits. There's no, there's like an infinite
Yeah.
amount of everything. And it just keeps going, never stops. So when Shauna said we should do a podcast, I didn't say we should do a podcast. Shauna said we should do a podcast. Oh, okay. And then beyond freedom, then that means that what we're going to go into the marketplace with is an idea that people can, instead of just going straight, oh, I'm going to be financially free. Oh, this is better.
Yeah.
This is better than financial freedom because we're going past it. And when we get past it, that's where people find what you found. They
Yeah.
find themselves.
Yeah. I love that. Woo. It's good stuff.
So I say, so we think about this thing that's bigger than us,
Yeah.
right? And it's bigger than us, but it was given to us, and we need to give it to others. We need to share it, right? We need to share it. We need to get it out. We need to show up. And sure, we're CPAs. Sure, we do taxes. Sure, we all those things. However, we're on a mission.
Yeah.
We have a purpose to bring people this concept of beyond freedom. And sure, we have a lot to teach. We have a lot of people to bring alongside us. We have a lot of people that we need to bring along, um, that we need to come alongside, and people that need to come alongside us. Like we need people, people need us.
Right.
And a podcast, it's like, you know what? We know a lot of people. We need to bring this vortex. I love that word of knowledge and education and wisdom and to get there. How else are we going to get there if
Yeah.
we don't, you know, go? And this is one of the ways, this is one of the roads that we're going.
Love
And
that.
you're on it. Thank
I-
you
yeah, listen,
for coming.
thank you for having me. That's the beauty of it. You know, I was writing in one of the letters for Letters to a Dreamer, I say that purpose is rooted in people and bigger than politics. And that is my way of reminding myself that one, I need to stay connected to people because my purpose is in the people. And two, I need to stay away from the politics because this is bigger than me. Right. And so in doing what I'm doing now, I found that when you discover who you are and you're able to walk in that, there's not only a level of fearlessness that comes with it, but also a level of humility. And that's something that I was missing on this journey. You know, there
Mhm.
was a large part of me that thought I deserved to be successful because I was smart, friendly enough, and I could get things done. And why not? Why didn't I deserve to be successful? But I didn't understand the work that goes into it. So when I hear about the work that you guys are doing, it's so important because it's so much deeper than the money, you know? Like it's so much deeper than all that. Um because there are some things that if you don't work on them within yourself and you get the money, it's not going to matter,
Exactly.
right? Because you haven't worked some things out up here. Um, you know, and that's even something I'm working through now, just growing up in the financial situation that I grew up in, and then trying to adjust my mindset now to believe that there's more than enough to go around and not have this scarcity mindset is a very difficult journey, you know. And that's why I'm grateful for people like you because, Jay, you've said little things to me just in conversation. It's been like, I can think about it like that. It doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. Like I can really think of a better outcome. So when I look at this work and what you guys are doing, I am very happy to be a part of it and hope that this conversation was, a great contribution to it.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely. And I know that.
Absolutely, man. So let's talk a little bit about the I guess the branding,
Mhm.
for businesses, content creation, that businesses need,
Mhm.
just kind of let the listener just kind of get a preview and understanding of, why branding and content creation is so important, especially for businesses.
Yeah, yeah. Branding is important in business because it's the preview to the experience in many ways, right? If your branding is clean and, everything's in place, all the bells and whistles, 9 times out of 10 you got some systems in place, sometimes, not all the time. There are some that get lucky and, they're just off running, but a lot of times it's saying it's a preview to the quality, right? And this is what we are teaching our clients is the importance of taking the time to put meaning behind the brand. A lot of times people will just come up with a symbol and just run with it. Oh, it has an A and a D in it, so we just threw that in the logo and called it a day, right? But when you tell them to tell you the story of how it was developed, all that is content. All those experiences are content. And so we teach our clients everything that you're going through, the good, the bad, the ugly, it's all content. All those experiences are meant to be shared. And so then we move into the content development and what we call brand expression. And we only want to express our brand authentically. And the goal is to create a brand that expresses itself so authentically that it speaks for itself almost, right? People can look at it, see it, know what it represents, know the impact that it's had. So when we're creating content, we're not thinking about content for 30 days. We're not thinking about content for the next 60 days or the next year. We're thinking about what content are we creating that doesn't have a shelf life and still creates impact. People can still get something from it and you can establish yourself for years on end. Right. So we don't get our clients into like, oh, talk about the trends, talk about this, don't get into any of that. Let other people have that stuff. You know, we always ask the question when we're developing content, and this has been hard for us recently. How does it add value? Right? Or does it add value? Does it add value? Is it insightful? Is it thoughtful? Is it inspiring? These are all things that we're thinking about. Because then you get the people who think pumping a bunch of content out is the way to go, but they're not saying anything. Right? So, like, for instance, a part of my strategy with the two of you would be your individual posts should highlight your individual personalities. And then the company posts should be a perfect blend of those two things coming together. Right? Most people are just going to put something together. Y'all will agree on it, and then you put it out. Nobody's thinking about, okay, when we put this out, how do we tie this piece into this piece? So I'll give you an example. We have a client that we're working with right now. They do brand photography. And we were talking, and she used to have a blog, right? And so she's like, oh, I used to love to write and so on and so forth. So I'm like, we're going to bring the blog back, right? You want to bring the blog back? Let's bring the blog back. So what I did was, as a part of our content, I'm rolling out a segment that's named after her actual blog, right? We're going to use this segment to tell the story of how we rebranded her and rolled out her content strategy. And then in that last post, we're going to then tie that post to send people to her new blog, to the website. So that's the difference in working with Blue Light, I think, is that we don't come with any cookie cutter solutions or like anything like that. It's all about how creative we can be. How much can we think outside the box, So that's the importance of content and marketing and strategy and branding, and that alignment is so crucial. If you do it the right way, you got lightning in a bottle. So
what would you say to someone that is struggling with how is that going to make me money?
well,
How
they're
can
already.
I see my ROI? And
Mhm.
I know you must come to that, like, what you do
Oh
for
yeah.
people is needed,
Oh
um,
yeah.
but there's no direct exchange. I mean, there's no direct exchange in marketing costs unless you're doing something shady, like
Right.
with ads and all that.
Yeah.
So how do you combat that? What is it called? That not objective. What is it called?
Objection?
Objection. Thank you. Um, and get people to see how important it is to make sure you show up. Like when we were teaching accountants and we're coaching, it's like you got to be findable.
Hmm.
You can't just sit at your desk and think, okay, people are gonna, you know. But you
Yeah.
go beyond that. You go beyond just findable. You go beyond that. But
Oh
how
yeah.
do you come against that and just kind of explain to people how important it is?
This may sound crazy, but it helps me sleep at night. I typically don't work with clients who are super ROI focused because that's not, I'm not in a line of work where that creates a great environment for me to be creative. Right. So if you're not in this for the long haul, like your goal really has to be to change the world, or we don't need to talk. And it took me a long time to get to that point because I would always try to like fit and, oh no, let me tell you why you, and I stopped doing all that. It's like, oh, well, I want to see X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, it doesn't work that way. The 5 stories that you gave me to write about are boring. I don't know who's going to read them. Right. So maybe that's not the strategy we need to take. Maybe you need to do more video, or so I don't set myself up or my team up because I don't like to disappoint. So I don't put us in those positions where if a client needs a result that badly, I let them go to an ads person or someone who can get them some sort of quick ROI. But with me, this is about establishing legacy. So if you're working with Blue Light for your branding, we're talking about a brand that lives beyond the next 10, 20 years, right? Like one of the things when we tore everything down and decided to rebuild it and brought in a consultant, Lisa Prusak from Redstone Business Consulting, we brought her in, tore everything down and rebuilt it. And I told her it's more important to me to work with 5 clients and have them for 20 years plus than work with 100 clients over the next 2 years. And at first she's like, well, how are you gonna, and I'm like, driving revenue is not going to be an issue because those 5 clients are going to be diehard clients, right? Their brands are going to be having impact and people will. So I think that yeah, that's how I handle that objection. I send them to people who can get them a few leads in the door if that's where they're at, because that desperation is gonna, it really tarnishes the experience. We really
Yeah.
just be creative and create dope stuff and you know create things that people can connect with, and sometimes that takes time. And people, we live in such a microwave society. It's really disgusting. It's
Yeah.
it's disgusting. And yeah, yeah, like this campaign we're about to roll out at the end of the month, this is a year and a half, 2 years in the making. This is me just being quiet for that time, just writing, taking notes, writing down ideas, marketing ideas, ads, different services I wanted to try out that we decided not to try out. And so now going into May, when we start talking, we're going to have a lot to say and it'll have impact. So, yeah, I can go on and on about this kind
No,
of stuff.
I'm glad you answered that way because what you did was set yourself apart from
Mm, yeah.
other consultants
Hmm.
that, if someone's looking for your service, they have the world to choose from. But you just set yourself apart and said, if this is what you're about, this is who you come to work with. Similarly to us, like if you just want a high and by relationship with a CPA, we're not for you. Like we're not high and by people. We're not, we're not gonna just do your taxes and then see you once a year. No, it's more to
Yeah.
it. So I applaud you from, I didn't know you would answer it that way, but it was so good because that proves out your differentiation, your uniqueness. And there are a lot of people that um want and desire to change the world. And you saying that, really, really will narrow in, really have them focus in on, wait a minute. It might even help them understand their uniqueness.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when you're in that dreamy creativity, because I've been in that for years and I didn't know, I thought something was wrong with me, but isn't. And you
Oh,
just don't know
yeah.
how great you are for being that unique, and then having someone say, having hear you, someone like you say that, it'll be like, oh, that's it.
Powerful. Yeah.
I need someone like him. I need someone like them because I'm not that, I'm this.
That's the gift of inspiration, isn't it? It is shining your light, right? Okay. You guys know that Bible verse, right? Shine your light. How? Hold on. I'm going to mess it up.
Let your light so shine before men.
For man that
That
it,
the one?
yeah. Yeah. Let your light so shine before man that it honors your Father in heaven, right?
Mhm.
Something to that effect. I
Something
forgot.
like that. Yeah.
But I'm saying all that to say that when we shine our light, we have the ability to inspire. And the act that occurs in that moment is people see your light and it makes them aware of their own light,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yep.
And that is the part of that Bible verse that I believe honors the Father in heaven. To inspire someone to operate in their authentic expression, right, is the ultimate gift. And it reroutes them and puts them back on course to be who they were meant to be and to have the impact that they were meant to have. So, you know, we're doing the work, and I'm excited about it. So thank you guys so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So we got a little bit more time,
Please,
time for a couple more questions.
sure. Got 8 minutes.
So I love to know more about people that I'm going to hire, that I have in my community.
Mhm.
Why don't you share a little bit about a day in the life of Shawn the professional, Shawn the creative, someone that's inspired by you? Like, hey, how does he do what he does in a day? Like, what does he do? What is it like?
Mm,
Does he have a morning routine? Does he have a night routine? How much time does he have to spend with his family? You know, like that
yeah.
other side.
So that's a good question. I do have a morning routine. I'm up around 3:50 every morning. My body wakes up. By 4 a.m., I am at my desk. I'm usually writing, journaling, or meditating. And typically meditating is me listening to music, and just kind of free writing. So that's how I spend my morning. So from about 4 to 6, that's what I'm doing. I'm just in this kind of creative mode. And then typically when it's warm out, between 6 and 8, I'll go for my walk, and I'll do that. Then I'll come back in, I'll have my shower, and I'm back at my desk. And usually I have meetings around that time. So I'll go to my meetings. And if I don't have meetings, then I'm writing, I'm creating, I am outlining different theories and strategies that I have that I want to test on blue light and then, roll out to clients. So I'm just constantly uh, polishing, you know, myself, the firm. As far as spending time with my family, so typically in the evenings, I try to be like done around 6. And so between 6 and 9, then usually that's our time. And then I'll work a couple hours after they go to bed and set up for the next day. So I'm usually in bed by 11. Um, and then on the days where I just don't feel like doing anything, I don't. Yeah. So I
Enough.
I will find a documentary that I want to watch because I love documentaries, and I'll play The Sims 3 until I fall asleep sitting up like an old man. And yeah, I don't force it. I think for a long time I tried to force it. I tried to force myself to be busy and and I was just doing a bunch of nothing, just running around, playing around, and wasting time and energy, getting frustrated. And so yeah, I don't put myself in a box now. How it comes is how it happens. Like the other day, I could not sleep for some reason. And I got this thought, which led to a note, which led to me writing a new chapter in the book. And I was up until 2, just writing. It was just pouring out of me. So that's what I live for. You know, that's the daily routine of a creative in my world, at least. I'm constantly writing.
That's great. That's even
Wow.
more of a blessing to someone because I'm gonna tell you, when you're conformed to think the world, all these things you're supposed to do, like what you mentioned, like before I used to force myself to be busy and I was doing a bunch of nothing.
Yep,
It's gonna
nothing.
hit, it's gonna hit somebody. It's gonna hit somebody right there. Like, no,
I
don't.
mean, I was spending hours with people I didn't even like. I'm like, why are you even, you know what I mean? Like just that whole thing of just chasing what, you know? Like
Oh,
I was thinking one night I was in bed, right? And I had got done working. And then I thought, man, I was worried about something. And I thought, if it all ended right now, I done spent all this time worrying. I done spent all this time being disingenuous and inauthentic. I done spent all this time running around in circles doing what I don't love to do just to make a living, right? But playing like I love to do it. It's like that's whack. It's boring. It's played out. So yeah, I live my life the way I want to live it. And I think that people should do more of that. I think that people should embrace that more. You know, do what you want to do. Take that vacation. Use those vacation days. Don't listen, that job will be there. Okay. And if you're not there, guess what? They'll find somebody to replace you. Okay. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
Wait
these are the
a
things we
minute.
don't talk about. These are things we don't talk about. You will believe in somebody else's dream before you believe in your own dream. You
Yep.
will help them build their dream when God already put something in you, but you don't even believe it, right? And then on top of that, the only difference between what you're doing for them 9 to 5 for that guaranteed paycheck and what you could do for yourself, one day you wake up when you're doing it for yourself and you realize there is no difference because they can pull
Mm.
that rug from under you just as much as you not getting that new client. So just do it. Stop being scared. Do it scared. I'm scared every day. I'm always scared. I'm scared right now, but you do it. So yeah,
I
that's
love it.
you know.
Yeah. Wow.
For you
You
to
know,
reach this, okay, go ahead, Jay. Go ahead.
no, you finish. Okay.
I feel like for you to have reached this wisdom at such a young age, it's like, woo, there's
You know,
people that are 40, 50, 60, 70 still sitting there trying to please others or hide behind this unauthentic facade or trying to keep up with people that they don't have no business keeping up with. So, oh my goodness, I am so blessed. We are so blessed to know you because I cannot wait to see how you continue to unfold in your authentic self. Like, come on, people.
you guys are a part of the story. Let me tell you.
Oh, good.
And let me say this too before we go. Um, People talk about wisdom. They admire wisdom. In order for me to be as wise as I am, I'm almost embarrassed to tell you how much of a fool I've had to be.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes we look at the end result of something or the culmination rather of something. It's just so much. It's so much I want to say to you but it's too much to unpack. But I'll say this. Shine your light. Be unapologetic in your authenticity. Express yourself and live into your integrity for you. What feels good and right to you? I believe when we honor ourselves in that way, then we honor God. And so thank you for giving me this space to share with you and express myself. And I'm just happy to know y'all. And this is dope.
Man, we definitely gonna bring you back, man. For
Please.
sure. You there's a part two that is definitely worth doing, especially since you're writing the book. And
Yes.
that'll
Excited.
be a great way to just kind of like promote that and kind of go on that journey with you.
Oh, maybe I can read the.
Last, yeah, yeah, absolutely. So last question, before we go, we ask everybody this question coming on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what Okay, so the name of the podcast, our company is Beyond Freedom Financial, and Beyond Freedom is this new idea.
Mm-hmm.
So what does Beyond Freedom mean to you as you think about that for yourself, for your business, for everything that you're doing? Like, what would you say that means to you?
Yeah. Um, I went through a training recently and we were doing root words. My root word was freedom. Apparently, it's my driver. So, beyond freedom to me represents, um, or the end result of that, I would say, is others not only being impacted by the freedom that I create for myself, but being free in their own right as well, whatever that means for them, whether that's financial, spiritual, whatever. That's what beyond freedom means to me. Um, yeah,
That's
yeah,
good.
for all of us, all of us. It's so much bigger than us. Like, but it's not too late to turn it around. So here we are being what we want to see in the world. Isn't it a beautiful thing?
Never. And we're all unique
Yeah.
and we all need each other. Like our skills are not your skills are
Right.
not ours. Our
Right.
purposes are, completely different, but needed to just kind
They
of
can
create
amplify
this.
one another, you know? They can
Yeah.
really just, it's just so important. It's so important. I always say that at every point when the world is like in peril, it's always creatives that come through to save the day. Always. Whether they're
That's
speaking or painting or sculpting or whatever. Always creatives. But and the same will be true now. Here we are. One day at a time, one podcast at a time.
With that said, I think that is a good way to end it. Like, yes, absolutely. Thank you
Thank you.
for coming in your robe and just making me feel all warm and cozy, even though we're thousands of miles apart.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Thank
Absolutely.
you
Thank you
for
guys.
coming and can't wait to see what's next.
It's gonna be wild. It's
You
gonna be
heard
wild.
that, people? It's gonna be wild.
Woo! All right. That's a wrap, guys. Man,
Right.
we want to thank Shawn Bagley of Blue Light Consulting for coming on today, sharing his wisdom. And like always, guys, this is the Beyond Freedom podcast with Jay Moore, the Healthy Accountant, and Shona Bell, the Freedom CPA. We will see you guys on the next episode. Peace.